Feels like we're entering a dystopian future. News about AI developments flood our social media accounts, iterations upon previous technologies in the field seem to increase at an exponential rate and then suddenly slow down. But even the slower pace feels fast moving. It's like being on a treadmill that keeps increasing in speed and your legs just can't quite manage to keep up. But putting the speed of the AI developments to the side, what I'm also looking at is what exactly are the developments, and most of all, which rich and wealthy power players are positioning themselves to exploit these changes. And one of the most crucial aspects is, what are some of these companies doing with AI that affect our civil liberties right now, in the future, and especially if they fall into the hands of a rogue government? Enter the room Alex Karp, Larry Ellison, and Peter Thiel.
We're doing it. We're doing it. And I'm sure you're enjoying this as much as I am.
So that lunatic was Alex Karp. He's the CEO, co-founder and director of Palantir. Now, Palantir, this is the company I want to start off discussing. Now, based on that intro to him, you would think the company Palantir is probably psychotic just like him. I'm going to leave that for you to decide as you hear more of what the actual company does and what they're into. Now, many people think Palantir is a data broker, a giant centralized database, or an autonomous data miner. But former employees say it doesn't really act that way. Instead, they sell software platforms business to business that let clients use data they already have in more powerful ways. Their two core products are Foundry and Gotham. Now, Foundry is aimed at commercial and civil government users. It helps integrate, cleanse, and operationalize data across business units. Gotham is for investigations, intelligence, law enforcement, and it helps users connect people, places, events, and build data-driven narratives from diverse sources. And it's Gotham that a lot of people have an issue with. But I'll let Alex Karp tell you what the company does in his little analogy here, or his little example here.
And what we do is we use what legal scholars call predicate-based search. So we would look at you, and then we would go out and say, oh, there's lots of different things in your life that may be indicative of someone involved in bad behavior.
Put simpler, they make software that makes it easier for their customers to collect and analyze data, and then act on that analysis with and without AI.
So when the narrator says it's easier for the customers to actually use the insights from the business, he's speaking of companies, because Palantir, it operates in the business to business section instead of business to actual customers. So think of their customers, or Palantir's customers, as actual companies. And we can see the list of companies here. So when the narrator says that Palantir helps these customers use their data and actually extract insights from the data that they've got in a more efficient way for them to sort of act on the outcomes effectively, that's not a bad thing when you think about it. But when you listen to actually what Alex Karp said, he made it sound really ominous. He says to the host on the show, well, I can look at your life, I can get data extracted from your life and see if you're the type of person who's basically going to do bad things. So why does he pinpoint that part? Why doesn't he speak of other things like we've got companies as our clients that we can extract customer data and use that information that we've gathered to try and, increase sales for the customers going forward? Why couldn't he cite something like that? Instead, he names the host and he says, I can look at the data from your life and sort of predicate, are you going to be a bad person and do basically bad outcomes? But there's a lot of worry about this company, especially because it has so much power, and because you've got a guy like Alex Karp as the CFO and basically the director and head honcho of the company. I mean, you've got government and military contracts, and there's a lot of surveillance concerns there. You've got his marketing style, the language he uses, stuff like the enemies will be destroyed, software that dominates, embedded engineers in client organizations being deployed to take over. He uses insane, sort of really, really dramatic words that make you think the company promotes war, even with clients that have nothing to do with war. So that's another concern. Its company, it has the power to amplify human bias, and that's not, of course, a good thing if you're going to sort of exacerbate stereotypes as it is. And there's questions about their ethical boundaries.
Palantir is here to disrupt and make the institutions we partner with the very best in the world,
and when it's necessary to scare enemies and on occasion kill them.
Check out Palantir shares surging 22% after the company cited a boom in demand for its AI software from the US government.
He comes off as an evil person, to be honest, and that's why there's been a lot of backlash. But look at his response to the backlash.
Whatever is pissing them off, they're still buying the product. If you do not feel comfortable supporting the legitimate efforts of America and its allies in the context of war, don't join Palantir.
Meanwhile, in the government, you've got people like Trump who are using emergency powers all of the time. And as we know, this administration, and to be fair, administrations in the past, they declare everything a war on something. You know, a war on drugs, Department of War instead of the Department of Defense. Everything becomes war on something. So what if at some point it's war on civilians? And if Palantir is going to help promote an administration that always wants to have war on things, is that a good thing?
It can be used to completely reconfigure organizations' ontology, its reality, what systems matter, what information matters, what processes matter, how they are structured, what biases are introduced at each of those stages.
Trump is building a database to spy on every single American, and he tapped Palantir to do it, a CIA-funded tech company co-founded by tech billionaire and Republican donor Peter Thiel. In 2010, Thiel shared his real motivations out loud.
We could never win an election because we were in such a small minority that maybe you could actually unilaterally change the world without having to constantly convince people and beg people and plead with people who are never going to agree with you through a technological means.
Thiel knows his ideology could never win an election because he's skeptical of democracy, believes women shouldn't vote, wrote a book criticizing multiculturalism and diversity, and has defended. What he's arguing is that technology can bypass the need for majority support. That tech is Palantir. The perfect opportunity for Thiel to enact his plan came when Trump enlisted Palantir to build the most expansive surveillance infrastructure in US history. It would integrate sensitive records from all government agencies and use AI to profile behavior and identify individuals deemed risky by the system, giving the government more power than ever. The Trump admin claims more data could help them improve public safety and detect fraud, but we all know that's not what would happen. Former Palantir employees have warned that a centralized system like that could be used to surveil, target, and silence anyone the government disagrees with. It could also be used to influence public opinion. Remember Cambridge Analytica, the company that used data to build psychological profiles on Americans so they could manipulate their voting behavior during the 2016 election? Yeah, it would be like that, but on an even bigger scale. Even MAGA feels betrayed by this move. Nick Fuentes, a far-right Trump supporter, said, seriously, if Palantir isn't the deep state, then what is? We have to come together to stop this drastic expansion of government control and power.
Next up, Larry Ellison, the Oracle of Control.
The police will be on their best behavior because we're constantly watching and recording everything that's going on. Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on.
So he says citizens will be on their best behavior. I mean, who wants to live in a world where everyone's a model citizen? And I mean, by what definition is someone a model citizen? I mean, I wouldn't want to get arrested for jaywalking. I'm pretty sure in China you lose social credit points for that. Is that what he wants to bring here to the West or to the US? And the UK most likely will follow. I don't want that. Do we know how many laws there are in the books at the moment? Is the plan for the AIs to enforce every single law written down on the books? I mean, there's probably contradictory laws in and of itself. And at the moment, I think there's 30,000 laws, including statutes, state law, federal law. There's tons of laws. And in the UK, well, that's in the US. In the UK, there's hundreds of thousands of laws. That includes regulations, acts. There's tons and tons. Does your average civilian know how to follow all of these rules? You're going to get caught out at some point. He mentions the amount of data the NHS has, but this is not linked to the financial data, which would include banking, credit cards, and so forth. It doesn't include identity data, which would include passports and things of that nature. Or does it include social data, which doesn't include social media, of course. Whereas he wants to encompass all of these things into one. That's overreach. You can't quote the NHS or the UK system and then say, hey, you want the same thing, but you want everything else included as well. The UK doesn't have that at the moment, even though, of course, they're trying to bring in digital IDs and things like that. So for now, they don't. But that's what he wants.
The first thing a country needs to do is to unify all of their data so it can be consumed and used by the AI model. You have to take all of your healthcare data. your diagnostic data, your electronic health records, your genomic data. And in the Middle East, in the UAE, for example, they're incredibly rich in data. They have a lot of population data. The NHS in the UK has an incredible amount of population data, but it's fragmented. It's not easily accessible by these AI models. We have to take all of this data we have in our country and move it into a single, if you will, unified data platform. So we provide context. When we want to ask a question, we've provided that AI model with all the data they need to understand our country. So that's the big step. That's kind of the missing link. The secret is to get all of that data in one place. Without having the basic data, it cannot answer the question about your country.
Ellison wants to centralize all of the data so that you can ask the AI some question and it can give you the answer. But what question for the nation is that important? What question can the US government or the UK government not answer at the moment? He needs to be questioned on that. Tony Blair didn't ask him that. So I would love to know, what questions does he want the immediate answers to? He acts as though having this centralized database where the AI can answer all the questions is going to lead to some sort of utopia or some harmonized society. But the truth is, you don't need this central database and the AI to answer all of these questions. We pretty much know the issues in the UK and the US and the Western world in general. We know it. We don't need the Oracle system in place in order to solve these problems.
This is the last year you will ever log on to an Oracle system with a password. There's no reason to enter a password. In fact, passwords are too easily stolen. The data centers and data is being taken hostage all over the world. The ransomware business is a very, very good business. It's getting bigger and better every year. We tend not to talk about it because the American FBI has a simple advice to someone whose data has been ransomed. Just pay them because there's nothing we can do about it. But there is something we can do about it, not after the data is stolen, but before the data is stolen. We can make sure that we're using the latest security technology, and it is going to be biometrics assisted by AI.
He says the passwords are easily stolen. They're easily hacked, which to some extent I guess is true, but I'm pretty sure if every user followed password protocols, updated their passwords all the time, made their passwords really difficult, we would see a huge reduction in the ability to hack systems. And he also says you ask the FBI and they just say, hey, there's nothing we can do, just pay the ransom. It's that if you go to the FBI, they simply say, pay the ransom. And you just have to give in and give your money up. But that's not true. The FBI, they point you to the IC3, which is the Internet Crime Complaint Center, firstly, but they will make an attempt to trace the criminals themselves if they have to, if nothing else can be done by another organization. So he's just lying when he says they can't do anything. That's not true. In fact, not only is it not true, the FBI recommend not paying. So if Larry Ellison will lie about this, what else will he lie about? What else has he lied about? Recently, he's taken over control of CBS News, is set to run TikTok, and he might own CNN and Paramount soon. How is he going to affect the algorithms of these platforms? I'm sure, in a way, that meets his needs and for the group of elites he represents. What we're watching isn't innovation, it's consolidation. The same people building the tools are the ones deciding who gets to use them. Data isn't just information anymore, especially these AI and algorithms. It's power, currency, and control. And the question is, who's holding the controller? Well, it's people like Larry Ellison, Alex Karp, and Peter Thiel. If you want to keep seeing what's really happening behind the code and the AI and all these changes going on, hit subscribe, drop a comment, and share this before it disappears from your feed.